welcome to This Anime, the podcast that talks about anime past, present, and future, all with the exclamation of This Anime. And today on this month on the show, we are talking recreators as well as Momoru Hosoda's The Boy and the Beast. And I'm not alone, because once again we are covering a show that is near and dear to my heart. I decided to bring on, once again, from This Week in Geek. He is a podcaster, producer, and all-around monkey wrench for This Week in Geek. And he's also a friggin' insane man, as he marathoned all of Fairy Tail in like a week and a half. It's Alex, the producer from This Week in Geek.
Yeah, it was actually 5 days.
That's even worse.
It transcended consciousness, and I was basically sleeping and living it.
Yeah. So, basically, some things going on with the show before we get into the topic. We officially hit 1,000 downloads as of last month on the podcast. I want to thank everyone who's listened and downloaded and all that stuff. And there's a lot of stuff that's going to be in the back end that we will announce at the end of the year. I'm super excited for what's to come and hope you guys are too. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into Recreators. This is a series that has been stuck on Amazon Prime since it aired, and I am very, very frustrated about it.
Yeah. And looking, like I had for a long time passed over that entire section in Amazon Prime because for a while it was just a bunch of old shows that were either available on other platforms or things that just didn't interest me. But I guess I had been sleeping on it because it had a lot of other shows started popping up on there that they were gobbling up the rights to. And I think the reason I missed it is because they're not dubbing anything. They're just,
no, they are not.
And like in this particular case, the sub was a good quality sub. But some of the other ones I've seen look like they were just like taken from the 80s and thrown on. So they did.
That's the issue with the issue with a lot of people on Amazon and how they don't normally do their subs very well.
Yeah, this one almost felt like it was handled by somebody else and they just picked up the rights to it.
I believe Aniplex owns the distribution to it.
Oh, that would actually make sense as to why, like, the subs themselves almost look like when you get like a fan sub community and they put like a lot of effort into it. It was like that kind of quality. I'm like, really? So I thought maybe if they're going to put that kind of effort in, maybe they could actually dub it. Because after watching it, like, without going into detail, like, this is a show that I think could have caught a lot larger audience had it had an English dub. This is the kind of thing that could have probably aired on like regular terrestrial TV here.
I mean, I think I'm hoping eventually, because like there's only like a handful of series that are still stuck on Amazon right now. It's this one. There's like 5 or 6 that are still stuck.
Didn't they recently pay for him and do the sub of Vinland Saga?
Yes, that was a deal that was signed ages ago.
And they were even supposed to dub it initially, and then they just didn't.
Well, that's because Amazon was originally trying to get into the anime business by doing Anime Strike, which was pay for Amazon Prime and then pay again to get Anime Strike.
So I guess the second paywall would have been what they used to actually pay the localization.
Yeah, basically. And then that completely fell apart within 6 months.
Because it's one of the few, like I've read some manga, but that's one of the few where I actually bought the first 3 volumes as it was coming out. And I'm like, this is really good. And, years ago I heard it was like, oh, they're going to make a show out of it. And you know how long that takes. And I went, okay, cool. I'll just wait till there's a dub, because it's one of the ones where I could just see myself vegging out watching. And then, no.
Nothing. Nope.
Nothing. And I would have, had you not mentioned the show and said, hey, you want to check this out? It's available in Canada. And I went, oh, okay. And like, had I not been told about this, I would have just seen this, like the title, even like Recreators. I was like, oh, it's like 99% of the like visual novel video games out there, or other animes where it's just like random words jumbled together with semicolons to make it a show. And in this case, it actually had a real meaning, because how many of them out there have like 7-word titles and none of the words actually mean anything?
Yeah. This show, I had originally what got me into the show was specifically the composer for the music was Hiroyuki Sawano, who I think this is your first Sawano original series score.
I'm gonna say probably. I don't know.
Because you've watched Attack on Titan and some of the stuff he's done that has been based off of other works, but I think this is your first time actually watching something of his original stuff.
Yeah, like I'll say this: what stood out to me was there were a few tracks that obviously they used as the motifs to repeat when certain characters are on screen, but the fact that most of the songs were completely English.
Yes.
Like to the point where it wasn't even like really broken English. It was, for the most part, it actually flowed, and they at least tried to get it to have the stance and timing and rhyming of regular like native English lyrics. Like you could tell it wasn't 100%, but I was really surprised, because usually you see these shows and they'll have like one sentence or a couple words in a verse, but it was every single song, and they had the subtitles popping up on screen. I'm like, I don't need subtitles for that.
I mean, sometimes it depends. Like Sawano, usually he does a lot of major English stuff in his original music composition, and it's just, there's a lot of motifs. He's very big on that, obviously, and honestly, when I heard that, Sawano's got a new original anime that he's composing for, I was just like, oh, awesome. I will watch that. And then I found out it was stuck on Amazon, and I have issues with Amazon. I don't find their UI to be that great. It's a mess.
Yeah. Or how about in Canada, the app, which for whatever reason is a separate app from the American, maybe because they had to build in like bilingual French in the app or something. But for 2 years, until like a couple months ago, you couldn't watch anything in 4K unless you did it through their website on a PC. If you did it on any of their app, simply because selecting 4K broke the code or broke something in it, and it was only regionally in Canada you couldn't watch 4K. And also you can't really search things very well. Like trying to find stuff, like you'll look for anime, you'll go to like the anime section and your show won't be there, but it might show up in like the kids section, and I'll be like, but that's an anime show, why is that there? Like they're not, for a website that prides, or a company that like started it basically as an online ordering catalog. It's kind of surprising how hard it is to find stuff on their streaming platform. Its
website has also been stuck in like the early 2000s web design.
Nothing has changed on there. Like, from somebody who's been an avid purchaser for years, there hasn't been a major change in the way they ran things on there since 2012 maybe, and that's when it actually got harder to search for things.
Yeah. And just like genuinely, this entire production is a who's who of both vocal talent and also directing and series composition and all that stuff. Because you got Sawano on the music. The creator is the creator of Black Lagoon, and it like. Really just Black Lagoon is his name to fame. And then the series is just directed by Ie Akio, who is done a lot of he's worked on the Fate franchise. He's worked on he was the director of Wandering Sun, which is a series that got on my radar this year, and we are going to cover that soon on the show. And that's about a transitioning transgender characters. And
which is pretty new ground, and for
that series was done back in 2011.
which when you consider, like, culturally, that's pretty out there for them.
Yeah. It has not gotten U.S. distribution, by the way, and does not have a dub.
Which the funny part is, you think that would be honestly a market that it would do better in.
Yeah. I believe it was Aniplex that also had the rights to that. Oh,
Aniplex, the division of Sony that says everybody should think like Japan.
Yeah.
$300 US Persona 5. Anybody?
He is the director has also done directing work on Mobile Suit Gundam, Iron Blooded Orphans. He has worked on Aldnoah Zero, which is a series that I will eventually cover on this show. It is a very amazing mecha show. And yeah, he's worked on a lot of significant pieces in modern anime today. And then it's just an amazing bit. And then the voice cast, you've got the main character, Sota. Sorry, Jesus, why am I saying Saito? Sota is actually voiced by the Japanese voice actor behind Deku from My Hero Academia.
I was trying to pinpoint it, and I'm like, because I do watch My Hero almost exclusively dubbed, but there was a while where I was impatient, so I would watch the sub copy and then watch the dub.
Mm-hmm.
That would explain where I was like, why am I recognize the voice on? And let's just get this out of the way first. Do you love this show because the main character looks like you?
No, actually. No, I love it for its just general message.
Is this show just about him? Did he write it?
Oh gosh. And then also the voice of the Japanese voice for the Major from Ghost in the Shell is in this as well. She plays the demon high school girl.
Which, yeah, like, talk about creepy.
Oh yeah. Oh yes, most definitely.
Like, plays the stock market just to piss people off when, by making fun of them for not doing as well. Like, just like the character, like, when you think about it, you write a character and you don't necessarily think all the paths they would go in, but you tried to make a pure evil character, and then a pure evil character. What do? They just do things just for the shits and giggles.
Yeah, she is pure chaotic evil. In every sense of the word. But and then, like, some of the other minor characters you will have heard in multiple productions. I've gone through this cast list and I'm just like, oh, I know you from this, I know you from this, I know you from this. It's absolutely hilarious how many VAs are a part of this show. And honestly, that's what the show is. The show is a love letter to people who create in just any industry in Japan. And it's absolutely amazing. Like, I love every bit of it, and it shows all aspects of it, because you've got the magical girl, you've got the light novel, you've got the Fate character. Just like flat out.
Oh yeah, like there's I mean, you got a character that's just basically ripped right out of Neon Genesis.
Yep. And
The only thing you were missing was like somebody like Berserk, or like you're missing like some of like the over the top ones, or they covered all like the modern tropes, I think.
Yeah, they covered a lot of the modern stuff.
Yeah, like you didn't see like I didn't see a lot of representation of like the animes you would have seen in like the 70s, 80s, like or you didn't see like a Goku or somebody.
No, it's much more modern sensibilities. But yeah, genuinely, like the show's pacing is just very just like breaking. It's slow to start off, and then once like the middle of the series hits, the shoe drops, and then everything's just like breakneck pace.
Yeah, in watching there is a distinct first half and second half. Also, the only thing that seemed out of place here was it's a 22 episode series. Episode 13 is a full recap episode.
Yeah, because there was
like
when it aired during the summer, and there was a break for, I believe, baseball.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask, because it just seemed like that's not enough episodes for them to have needed a recap. It's not like when I watch like Black Clover and every, I don't know, 45 episodes they'll do a recap episode because they either are they've caught up to too close to the manga, like Dragon Ball style, or you can't have the show's been on 3 years and it's 130 or 140 episodes in or something like that. It's like that's a lot to catch up with.
It's like almost 200 at this point.
Yeah, like it makes sense when it's like that, but I'm like, a limited series that wasn't planning on having more than one season, it seemed kind of odd, but that does make sense if they took like a 2-month break or something.
They took like a 2-week break.
Oh, that's not enough. I mean, it was good. It actually gave a little bit more backstory to those characters, like a tiny bit each one.
Yeah,
but yeah, like I watched it and I was like, oh, so that's like the one episode where I basically watched it in fast forward mode, and I was like, oh, that looks interesting. I'll go back and see that part, because I was like, a recap episode at the halfway point in a 1-season show.
I mean, it's technically 2 cores, so sometimes that happens.
That's true. Yeah. I forgot that they've gone back to they're doing, was it 13 episodes is their standard now?
Yeah, 12 to 13 episodes is a standard.
See, I guess because I remember being a kid when 26 was their standard for everything. Or it would be like, it was either 26 or 52.
52 is a year.
Well, yeah, and there were a lot of them that were like that, like Pokemon and everything.
Yeah. And now we have One Piece, which is almost perpetually continuous.
Well, or like the reason I bring up like Black Clover is I started watching when they were in like the 40th episode, and I was like, oh, I'll catch up. I'm like, and then I'll, when they have a break, and I'm like, wait, they're taking a 1-week break between seasons, and like,
yeah,
51
basically what happened,
and they were right back.
What was crazy with Black Clover was originally it was reported that it was going to be a 13 episode series, and then it immediately got greenlit for a full year. It went from 13 to a full year, and now it's just been perpetually continuing from
and after watching Fairy Tail, I'm like, people were like, oh, it's just like a darker Fairy Tail. It's like Fairy Tail, Harry Potter, and Dragon Ball Z merged into one, and I'm completely okay with it.
Kind of, yeah.
So I can see like certain shows, obviously the shonen type ones can go on. This is a show that would not have, you couldn't have gotten a second season out of it, because they were almost stretching it a little too far. Like you could have done this show in about 16 episodes if it was really concise.
Yeah, I could see that.
Or if you had cut out the filler episode, so we got 22, 21 of real actual content. You probably could have done 20 and trimmed 2 to 3 minutes off of every episode, and it would have been a tighter thing. It wouldn't have felt like it was moving too fast either. Right. But yeah, like I don't know. I'm trying to think.
It was just minor decisions in
Yeah, and
production.
that's nitpicking because overall, like, it's well done, really high quality animation. I was just trying to figure out the studio. Troika. I don't know if
This
I've heard them before.
Troika is a smaller studio that does a lot of additional work for certain series. Most they've worked on they haven't really worked on, they don't work on a lot of stuff because they're a smaller studio. Usually it's like one or two a year. 2018 was a really big year for them because they got the Idolish franchise. They got to do one of the Idolish series, which is the big Idol series that's long running, and multiple studios have worked on that, so they got the chance to do that. And then they did Bloom Into You, which is another lesbian romance series that actually was really good.
I've heard of that one, and what always confuses me with all these shows is when they list the channels they air on. Like for recreators on, if you look at the Troika Wikipedia, it says Tokyo MX, but then if you look like when it says original network on Wikipedia, it's Tokyo MX, BS11, GYT, GT. It's like they have like a bazillion satellite channels that they are on at the same time, but I'm assuming Tokyo MX is like the originated channel.
Yeah, Tokyo MX is usually like the original channel, and then they broadcast over multiples.
Okay, and I'm just looking because I was looking at their other list. All of their shows have been on there except for Bloom Into You, which was on ATX, which I clicked on it. I'm like, yep, it's going to be a satellite channel that's more niche or whatever. But I have heard that Bloom Into You was supposed to be a good production or whatever, because I remember somebody telling me that.
Yeah, and they are also the people behind I'll Know Zero, and especially when you look at the mechs in Recreators, you will immediately recognize the kind of look from Noah. And that's the thing. Like this show has a lot of different characters, and then also, if you've watched a lot of anime, you know all of these kind of tropes for the most part.
Yeah, but it doesn't like ham it up too much with them at all. Like I was fully expecting them to be like really over the top caricatures, and they weren't really that much.
I think the only one that really is over the top is the magical girl.
And she's not in too much.
She's not in the series for long because she gets axed.
Yeah, not too much. and she's actually one of the first ones to change. And
yes.
is like, oh, well, she like sees blood and sees like destruction. It's like, wait, things can get destroyed when I'm fighting.
Yeah, it's just kind of like that realization. Is like, oh, crap. I'm literally in a G-rated kids show in my world, and now I'm in real world where everything is legit. And I think the biggest thing that like, I was enjoying the series as it was going on, but what really cinched it for me personally was the reveal that Sota knew everything.
I had a feeling he did, not obviously the first couple instances, but I was like, after the first couple episodes, I'm like, why are they showing up for him? Like, why did they initially show up around him? Like, they're not explaining enough. I'm like, they're hiding something.
and having known that rewatching this series, there is a lot of hints that he knows more than he lets on.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, but at the same time, I'm looking at him like, I had friends like you in high school, and it's like, it's not politically correct to say anymore, but just grow a pair. Come on. It's like your age, 15, 16, whatever you're supposed to be. It's like, I'm sorry.
I believe he's 16.
Yeah, it's like, how do you get up in the morning if you're that scared and introverted? And yet he's behaving for the most part like he can go around and do things. And it's like, I knew people that were like that, and I would try to like get them out of their shell. And it's like, come on, you can't just retreat into like staring down at your book and drawing all day.
Yeah. And again, like the whole plot revolves around Sota, Altair, and Setsuna, who like I had completely forgotten that we actually get sort of introduced to Setsuna without knowing who she is. First thing, when she commits suicide at the beginning of the series.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, I forgot
sorry, I'm not laughing at suicide. I'm just like, because it's everything else that happens is like so bright and flashy that you completely forget.
Yeah. It's like you completely forget that she was introduced immediately. And her suicide is literally the catalyst for everything that happens, essentially.
Yeah, and I mean it's a show. Really, if you wanted to tie it down, it's a show about expressing yourself and bullying, pretty much,
and also just about the difficulties that every person who creates art has. Like
all that, and then they tie in, just some subtle concepts of not just the collective or world opinion, which is sort of the high level part of it, but there's like the hint that society in itself is a living organism.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's kind of heavy. Like, I imagine that this is, if it was released on TV here, it would be rated PG-13. But I'm guessing not a lot of kids that are like 12 to 15, like that are the target age group, are going to read as deep into it. But that's good because it offered more to those of us that are older.
Yeah, it's a much more older teen demographic. Is what they're aiming for. And it immediately just like breaks down every single character has their own arc in a sense, except our chaotic evil character, which sort of just is chaotic evil.
Yeah, like it's the chaotic evil character is just simply, I like to do what I like to do, and it's fun to hurt people.
Yeah. It's, and you have we haven't really talked about him much, and I do want to actually talk about Blitz, who is our minor character in a mystery story, who is in the very adult story about how he had to murder his daughter.
It's very much a, like, what if you blended the aesthetics of like his world of like,
yeah,
it's like, what if you blended Akira with like Full Metal Alchemist? That's the kind of art style his world comes from.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's pretty much, he's actually the most, even the way he behaves and is drawn is it's almost like a Western, like Western as in like a created by a Westerner world.
Yeah.
Compared to all the others, like even the design, like how he's meant to look, how he walks, how he stands, what he's wearing, the way the gun is and everything, it almost feels like a Philip K. Dick Blade Runner type thing.
Yeah. And then his confrontation with his creator is probably the best bit in the entire series.
Oh, I'm going to kill you. Yeah, I know, because I wrote you that way. And it's like, well, are you going to, like, what are you going to do if I, let you go and go back to the world? I'm just going to make you suffer anyway, because it's good for my readers. And it's like, oh, you son of a bitch.
And that leads into kind of like talking about like the actual creators themselves in this series.
Yeah, I guess we should probably give like a brief overview of the general idea of the show before that is the whole Recreators, how it ties in with the title is all of the world's ongoing series or art / light novels. It seems to be Japan because obviously the show was catered to a Japanese audience, but it's hinted that it could be anywhere in the world as well, technically. So
you have like video games.
Like Batman exists in his own world. Once it's committed into the public consciousness, in that there's a Batman comic out there. If it doesn't sell, nobody knows about it. It's not a big deal. But if it becomes a really popular Batman comic and everybody in the world loves that Batman comic, then what happened in the pages will in its own universe manifest and become a real living, breathing universe. And we're the creators that they view as gods, when it's just that we're not gods in our own world, but the fact that we put pen to paper, we drew the characters, and the public in our world loves it. Our collective consciousness creates their worlds, and through certain means, some of them break out, come into our world, things start to deteriorate, and their creations come back and they want us to alter their worlds, hence Recreators.
And you have all these different characters either being indifferent to their creators or actually wanting stuff to change. Like specifically Yuya, he's the antagonist of his story,
which is like it's almost like Persona meets like
Streets of Rage.
Yeah, like a Yu Yu Hakusho, or I don't know. It's almost like Pokemon and Persona.
Yeah,
is the feel I get. Like they're from it's like, what if Pokemon was really dark and your rival Gary killed your other friend and
your girlfriend? No, it was the friend and the girlfriend.
Yeah, it's like Gary comes by, you're all friends, you go on your mission together, and he kills Misty and Brock when you're sleeping. And then now becomes the most powerful Pokemon trainer in the world. And he still technically doesn't hate you, but now you have to go kill him because he started Team Rocket at the same time.
Yeah.
Who now has to become a good guy, basically, to save all the worlds.
Yeah.
But he's still kind of an asshole.
And then you have the happy-go-lucky. If Shinji from Evangelion was happy-go-lucky, that's our mecha character.
Get in the robot. No, I don't want to. I want to go play.
Yeah.
And what was it? He doesn't like older women.
Yeah.
Yeah. They tried. Wasn't it? They tried to. The one girl or the one of them tries to seduce him, and he's like, "I only like younger women," or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And also the fact that he finds out that he's voiced by a female in their world in the anime, he doesn't really care.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, cool.
Well, and like as far as somebody who adapts probably the easiest, he's one of them. Like shortly after he arrives, like at least one episode or two later, he's like seen just playing video games and watching TV with his creator and eating snacks together, like they're just buddies already.
Yeah. And then there's you have some of the other creators. Like the first creator we get to meet is a dual creation of Tatashi and Marine, who Marine does the art and Tatashi's the writer. Takashi is the writer for Cilicia, she is light novel mecha hybrid fantasy whatever. Yeah,
kind of like the worlds you see in like was it Aura Battle or Dunbine, where it's like it's a fantasy world with mechs.
Yep.
Or like Escaflowne.
Escaflowne's more shoujo.
Yeah, I just trying to name all the animes I remember. But it's like, if you can think of the lead protagonist in almost every I guess fantasy or mecha show that has a girl in it, that's the character.
Yeah, pretty much. And then later,
including having the stupid names that all the isekai type shows have, where they all have like stupid long Germanic sounding names.
Yeah, I mean, technically, the one that has the ultra Germanic name is Meteora, whose last name is Ostrich.
Yeah. But they'll, like, I'm willing to bet that if they gave them enough time, they'd have like 6 other middle names.
Oh yeah. And like Meteora is voiced by the same Japanese voice actress for Hestia from Pick Up Girls in the Dungeon.
Doesn't surprise me.
And she's also the voice of Rem. Before people grab their pitchforks and yell at me. And I know her specifically as the voice of Jun Nasare from Anthem of the Heart, which is still my favorite anime film of all time. And we've already covered that on this show. But and the big thing with Meteora is that she is basically the smartest one in the room out of all the creations.
She's a librarian.
Yes. And the big thing with her is the realization that her creator is dead. And the fact that her spirit lived on without the creator is kind of just hinting at stuff that comes on later in the show with Altair.
And an advantage that she has is like when the creations manifest or teleport or however they arrive in our world, they retain a lot of the abilities, maybe not to the exact same degree that they had in their worlds, because the laws of physics don't necessarily work the same in each universe. But she was able to adapt to our world almost instantaneously because of her being, a librarian, in quotes, where she was basically like an oracle in the video game she was from. She was able to connect to the internet and just basically, she went to Wikipedia and learned everything she needed to learn.
Yeah, pretty much.
So like nothing phased her, like everybody else might freak out. She's like, I get it now. I have the internet. I'm good.
Yeah. And I mean, when she finds out her creator died, she literally just spends a whole day in an internet cafe, just 24 hours, and just like marathons the whole game that she's a part of.
Plays the game that she's a part of, which had to be freaky, playing a game and then interacting with yourself. I mean,
she's supposed to.
Her response was
supposedly, supposedly like she's the last character you meet before the final boss.
Yeah, that's the idea. Like, she gets all the way there, does it, and they're all freaked out. Like, what? And she's like, I liked it. It was a good game.
Yeah.
And it also brought me to think of like, oh man, Japan must be so different that you can rent a PC game and just play it at an internet cafe, which doesn't exist anymore here.
Yeah. And then Alisteria, aka literally friggin' Saber from Fate. Like, she's the Fate character, like 100%.
Fair enough. I have no idea that show, so
don't get into Fate. Fate is clusterfuck and a half.
It's one of the ones. Is that one of the shows where it has a bazillion different like semicolon subtitle versions?
It's based on it's based on a game series.
Okay, so maybe
a visual novel game series in which the first game in the series isn't available in the US.
Oh, of course.
It is not available to play in the US. All the other games are, which makes no sense.
And you said it's is that one of the ones that like Axis publishes? I think they have that series. Or no, theirs is like, or is it like Code Realize or something? They have.
I think I forget.
It's either them or Spike Chunsoft. They seem to be the ones that publish almost all of those. Them or P-Cube. 3 companies publish every
light novel series.
Yeah, but then they also make the mistakes of publishing like they'll be like, we're going to start with this series in the 3rd game, and you're like, why would you do that to us?
Yeah, she is literally she is Saber from Fate. Okay. 100%. She is like the poster child for. She's also too dumb to be that powerful. Ooh boy, she is OP as all hell.
OP, and it's not even stubborn. It's just I won't listen to reason because I don't have to listen.
And I got fooled by the chaotic evil character, even though I know she's chaotic evil.
Yeah, it's like I am from a world where I have to kill the ultimate evils that are deceptive and all this, but I can't tell this one's evil.
No, she knows Magane's evil. It's just that she's for some reason trusts Magane that it was Meteora that killed Mamika. Like, really? You're gonna trust the chaotic evil character?
Yeah.
That's the one thing where you kind of just have to go, okay, fine. And like, again, everything stems from Altair. We've been walking around this for God knows for the last like hour, but Altair is the creation of Setsuna, who committed suicide at the beginning of the series. And Setsuna created Altair, and Altair basically became a creation of the world. And so Altair is literally unlimited power when it comes to all their skill sets and everything.
And so I almost thought of the show as like Deviant Art, the anime.
Kinda. It's very Deviant Art friendly. Let's put it that way. And and when it gets revealed that Sota knew Setsuna, and kind of when Setsuna became big, like bigger than she was already at the time, when Sota met her, he just kind of becomes jealous and just sees that, like, I'm not as good as her, why bother? And I mean, a lot of artists have been there, where it's just like, we see someone who is so much better than us and go like, I could never be that good. It's super friggin' relatable.
Oh, and I always have to look at it and go, okay, it's got to be in the context of this kid's in like grade 10. So, like, it's honestly the worst time to be an artist is when you're at your most insecure, which is like ages, like 13 to 17.
Yeah, high school age. And it's so... It like literally the revelation that's just like he ignored Setsuna because he just felt inferior, and that when Setsuna needed him the most, he just like kind of just stonewalled her, and she ended up committing suicide. And it's just like, shit, just like the weight of that has been on him for the months and months that happened before the series started. It's absolutely horrible. And there are two other creations that come in later on in the series. We have the generic fan service character.
Yeah.
Whose creator is like, yeah, no, I can do whatever the hell I want, and the people will eat it up. Like, he literally turns her into a kung fu master, and it's just like, yeah, no.
And he's designed to be like if this was an American show, he would have been 500 pounds with a neck beard living in his parents' basement. Like, that's the character they made him look like. It's like, oh, he's supposed to represent like the like mouth breathers out there.
Yeah, and also to note, he is the voice of Kazuma from Konosuba. So he is.
I love that they're like, okay, so what's the power? What's her power? And like, well, she doesn't really have a power in her world. It's like, well, she makes guys stare at her. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Like, that's the power? Like, yeah.
Yep. She's just too pretty. And then I do love the added fact that we have the creator of Yuta and Sho, who is the protagonist of that series. Like, the creator of that is a big fan of the trashy, cute anime girl series. And then I also love the fact that with his character, like, Yuya literally gives away the ending of his series. He like gives away the whole ending of the series, and his creator is just like, you freaking idiot, what the hell am I supposed to do now? And then it cuts to some dude in his watching the stream online. He's just like, yeah, it's totally something he would write. It's just like, of course, like you always have those, like, your audience knows you're writing so well that, like, something that stupid is like, no, that makes sense. Like, I totally get it.
I was kind of hoping that one of the creations didn't show up would have been like an anthropomorphic character. Like, they were all humans in this. But wouldn't it have been funny if something like Morgana from Persona showed up, or like a Teddy type character?
That would have been interesting, but I think it would have lost the groundedness that
probably
it was trying to do.
The only thing it was missing from all the tropes was like the little tiny old guy that ends up being super powerful, like a Master Roshi type guy.
Yeah. But and then also at the end with the confrontation of Altair at the apex of Setsuna trying to commit suicide, it's just this. It's such an emotional hit.
Oh yeah.
That I'm like, that when I first watched it, it brought me to tears. When I watched it again, it brought me to tears. It's just like,
yeah.
Oh God.
I sort of figured out what they were going to do a few episodes beforehand.
Oh yeah, it very
obviously
much.
We're adults, we've seen enough things. But if you were like, you got to put yourself in the mindset of like, if you were 14, if you were in like grade 9 watching this, which would have been the target audience, you probably wouldn't have seen it coming.
Oh no, 100%.
So like everybody is all the humans for the most part are creators, and so his creation was to basically draw his friend.
Yeah. And
so what he had sort of been hiding in his books that he didn't want to show anybody is that he had been struggling with his guilt. For the most part, guilt was misplaced, but still dealing with it, and the fact that he had, all this stuff's happening. They're tearing apart the world, and they decide to do a giant crossover which is actually kind of brilliant. Do a giant
which is
crossover
funded by the government, by the way.
Yeah, funded by the government, and they didn't quite say we're forcing you to do this, but they pretty much were telling all the artists and everybody that, by the way, we're doing this. All of your companies now have to cooperate. There's no such thing as rights issues. You all have to do it, and we're going to be showing it. And everybody in our country is going to be talking about the crossover to beat all crossovers. It's every character from all of these stories all fighting together, and we're all giving them new powers, and they're all going to agree to help each other out. That's how they're able to do like combo attacks that shouldn't have been able to happen. They just intrinsically know about it. And when that all starts to fail, the main character of the anime decides that it's time, finally he's going to draw. And what he ends up doing he ends up creating such a perfect replica of his friend that it's as if she's actually come back.
Yeah. And also, I'm going to note this because, frankly, I had forgotten it when I just looked it up again. The third creation that comes out later in the series is Karen, who is from Celestia's world. His Japanese voice actor is the Japanese voice actor for Jin from Dragonaut.
Okay, so now I'm getting why you like it so much.
No, it's just no, it was just I have this dumb luck of having connections to literal. It's like 6 degrees of separation on everything I like. Like literally, I can connect everything I've watched to something else.
Everything connects to Dragonaut within like 10 steps.
Oddly enough, yes. I'm not even kidding. Because a lot of the people that worked on Dragonaut have been in the industry and have done prolific stuff. And this is honestly top 5 favorite shows of all time, easily. And
this is one of probably, as far as like shows that were meant to have one season only, and like original creations that were, not based on a long existing property, in that it's in the top 10 for me.
Yeah. And also my personal favorite Sawano score. Like, just period. I adore this score. This score is phenomenal.
Have you seen the soundtrack with the titles though? They're so hard to read.
This is here's the thing. Every Sawano score is like that. I'm not kidding.
It's all elite speak. And
he does that on purpose. Because a lot of Japanese soundtracks, I have a lot of Japanese soundtracks, the names are very similar in a lot of the tracks. So he uses the elite speak to distinguish them.
And also what helps with that is if he were to write it in English, even if you made an English title, that they would probably print it in Japanese, and then it would be impossible to see. Like, I've seen how many scores from like RPGs, you're like, well, I have no clue what title it is. I have to memorize the length of the song so I know which one to select. With this, at least, it's mostly, there's only a couple tracks that have characters I can't read, but oh man, does that hurt the eyes? It makes me think it's like MSN Messenger from 1999.
Yeah, it's easily one of my favorite Sawano scores. And then also just the like Shout is probably, which is the second OP, is probably my favorite anime opening of all time, just because it just gets me in the mood. And then you have I had completely forgotten that I did not have the insert song at that they used for Celestia's death in my music library, and I was like, God damn it, why didn't I not add that to my library? So I added it. So now I have everything.
Yeah, I would say what elevated this above most of the other shows that I've seen, even from like the same era, it's not that it was like the most high budget visual presentation. It's up there. It's one of the better ones. That, like, they weren't using a lot of cheap animation tricks or shortcuts, but I think it was the sound design. I would really love to hear it, if it got a really good stereo or surround mix in English, or even without. I would almost, you could almost watch the show if they had a track that was just the music only. They sometimes do that for movies where you can isolate it.
Right. The sound director is Jin Akitagawa, who has done who worked on, I'm pretty sure I saw it. Yeah, he's done the sound direction for Anohana. He's done he did the sound direction for the Code Geass OVA series. And there's another. He's done Honey and Clover. He's worked on. He did sound direction on Wandering Sun as well. He's a very prolific sound director. I just like looking at his filmography here. It's like a smorgasbord of stuff. Oh hey, he did the sound direction for Say I Love You, which is probably my favorite rom-com. But yeah, overall, Recreators is just a phenomenal piece of work, and god dang it, we need it. I just want a physical release, damn it.
Yeah, and when I always say that it needs a dub, I think this show does need a dub for those that there's a lot happening, and if you have trouble reading and processing
it's super
at the same
pronoun.
time,
it's super pronoun game in this, so it can be difficult to follow.
Yeah, especially if you are like, some people have a harder time reading and then correlating it to the actions. You will be doing a lot of reading.
Oh yeah. But yeah, I hope eventually like someone like Sentai Filmworks picks this up.
Or once
maybe
the right slaps, maybe maybe High Dive or somebody will grab it.
Yeah, well, that's also Sentai.
Oh, that's right. That's right. They have
High
that.
Dive is also Sentai.
I forgot how things have been shuffling around. It's like everything now is either Sony or Sentai. Because isn't Funimation
and
Sony as
well? Technically, Crunchyroll is still out there, but
I thought they're all the same thing.
No, Crunchyroll is owned by Warner, and then Sentai is its own thing, and then Sony has Funimation and Aniplex and all that. So it's technically three big boys in North America, international distribution, but
I mean,
things are not looking good for Crunchy. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, like, the only other company that could maybe pick it up, but I doubt they would grab it if it was already on Amazon, would be Netflix grabbing it and doing a dub.
Yeah, but Netflix has its own issues.
Yeah. Like they keep things hostage in other countries where it's like, oh, we own this, but we're not going to release it over in this country for the next 6 months, even though the English dub's already done.
And also the English subs are already done.
Yeah.
Which is really annoying. Yeah. It's its own cluster F and a half. But yeah, that's Recreators, and we're going to go ahead and take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to dive into Momoru Hosoda's The Boy and the Beast. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to this anime. Hope you enjoyed the musings from the Boy and the Beast soundtrack, which, let me double check the name so I am not a absolute ninny. That was done by Makatsu Takagi. And Boy and the Beast is the third Momoru Hosoda film that we have covered on this show. And originally I was like, wait, did I do Wolf Children? No, I haven't done Wolf Children. Wolf Children will be happening next year. Don't worry. But but Boy and the Beast, I wanted to pair something interesting with Recreators and kind of like do something different. And I think Boy and the Beast is a movie that when I originally saw it back in 2016, I actually drove 30 miles south to go see it. And I was kind of indifferent to it when I first saw it. And now looking back like 4 years later, I have a much more larger appreciation for it than I did back then. I think that's maybe just because I'm older, like significantly older, and have lived life a little more, where I can just kind of appreciate the tale that it's telling.
I remember this. This is the first time I'd seen it, but I remember when there was a big promotional push for it. If I'm wrong, was it not right around the same time the Avengers 2 was coming out?
Yes.
I think so.
It was 2016.
I just remember...
summer of 2016.
Because I remember...
Or like September of 2016 is when it came out in this.
Because I remember that my theater being plastered with posters for it, because I guess it was one of the few in the area that was going to be showing it.
And it was also the first major Hosoda film that was distributed by Funimation.
That would have been it, because it would have been like, and at the time, I think up here Cineplex had an exclusive deal with them for their like, I think they called them like roadshow events or something back then.
Yeah, that's basically what Funimation does, is the roadshow kind of style. And this was also the first that Funimation was trying to push Hosoda for the Oscar, and that didn't do well.
I was going to say, I think I remember at the time was I just started watching some movies here and there that were anime, and I remember the big thing that the posters up here had were all these other film critics and other animation titans saying that this is somebody who's going to, possibly surpasses Miyazaki or something, and I was like, okay,
honestly,
I didn't know I didn't know who that was at the time.
Yeah,
and then I looked it up and I'm like, oh, so it's like they were trying to really pass him off as this this like new, like super high quality auteur, because anime to me at the time was still, I was like, oh, it's got to be tied into merchandise, toys. It was, to me, it was all basically like 80s cartoons. That's how I viewed it, because that's how at least what had been marketed here. And then I had to look it up and I'm like, okay, so Studio Ghibli, what's that? Oh, so that's like the Disney or the Pixar of over there. And I'm like, oh, and so they're saying this is one of the guys that might be the new version of that.
And even Hosoda has kind of just denounced that notion that he's not, he doesn't consider himself a Miyazaki type person.
I think they were doing that marketing wise here because,
oh yeah, sure,
because the only anime films that had really, other than Akira, had hit big were when
were Miyazaki stuff.
Yeah, back when Miramax was putting them out.
Yeah, and the big thing with Boy and the Beast was it's like, unlike some of his previous work, where he focused a lot on the female perspective, he decided this is the first time he wanted to look at a male perspective and the idea of a father-son relationship. And that stemmed specifically because a few years before the movie started production, he had a son. Him and his wife had a son, and he just kind of started thinking about what it means to be a father, what it means to have your pass stuff on to your child, and also what other people can pass on to your own child. And it really stands out of his work, because a lot of his stories are about childhood and growing up and learning lessons about life. And this is very different because it has that male perspective.
Well, it to me, I think I skipped it initially, not because I was like not into anime. I was starting to get into it at the time. I looked at it and like, oh, great, another movie about, like, I thought it was going to be another Journey to the West movie, because how many times had that been done to death? The Chinese story. And I was like, that was my understanding at the time. I'm like, oh, is it going to be another Monkey King story? Is it going to be like, that was just because they were so pervasive at the time. So many of those things had come out, and I just didn't give it a second glance. And now, I'm glad I went back and watched it for this, because I was like, oh, this is a lot better than expected. And then I went and looked at critical reviews, and I'm like, wow, people in North America either love it or hate it. And I don't see why there's any hate for it. It's not a bad movie. It is a little long. It doesn't need to be over 2 hours. But there's stuff they could have done. But again, that's a nitpick. Like, it's not like it overstayed its welcome at all, but it's like universally praised in Asia and 50-50 here. I'm like, I don't get that, because it's actually good.
And I believe this is the second of Hosoda's films to be accepted for the Berlin International Film Festival. The first being his previous film, which was Wolf Children,
which I had heard of as well. I'm trying to think. Was this was probably one of the ones that would have played at TIFF, and it did. That's where it got its North American premiere.
It did. Yep.
Yeah,
it played at TIFF.
And you know what? That's why we would have had all the posters everywhere. Because it played at TIFF, and then they would have had a big run at Cineplex across Canada after that.
Right. Yeah. This is very much I'm a sucker for parent stories, like just parents and children's stories, and I've said that multiple times on this show. It's just like it's my soft spot. Like, every single time will get me in the feels.
You know what? This has it might be odd to say this. It has a very Jungle Book feel.
Kinda.
Like, it
kind of does.
Like, I could just picture, it's Baloo taking care of Mowgli, only training him to be a swordsman.
Yeah. And I got to give credit to the English cast, because this is the first time I watched it dub. I watched it sub 4 years ago in theaters. Like, the dub cast is great. Absolutely spectacular.
Oh yeah, and it has a really good mix as well. It doesn't, like, they must have got the actual master tracks for the sound effects and audio, because it doesn't sound like there's the background audio and then their voice is like way on top. Everything was layered properly.
Well, that's every Hosoda film. Hosoda is very particular.
Well, no, I mean, just for the English, you can tell that they took care of. They're like, hey, if we're going to try to get this thing into like all of the film festivals, we got to make sure we mix it well.
Yeah. And that's also credit to Funimation and those guys, even though Hosoda literally decided, I'm gonna have G Kids distribute Mirai, and Mirai ended up getting nominated for Best Animated Feature. So he kind of made the right decision on that.
And
after
that one,
Funimation,
I've seen the poster for Mirai, and I'm like, that looks like a Studio Ghibli film just from the poster.
Oh boy, does it ever feel like one. I'll tell you that much.
So maybe that's on my list of things to watch next.
Yeah. the train sequence is trippy as fuck in
Okay.
that film. That film is trippy at times. And it's very Mirai is much more episodic in its structure. And oddly enough, it's probably my least favorite Hosoda film simply because it feels all it doesn't feel it feels cohesive, but at the same time it feels so episodic that I kind of got lost at points.
Well, I was just looking at, like, it was nominated for the Academy Award. Like, what did it lose to? I'm like, Spider-Verse. Had
Yes.
Spider-Verse not come out, its only real competition would have been Isle of Dogs.
Yeah.
And it probably would have beat Isle of Dogs.
Yeah, easily. And
but I think,
yeah,
I think even the creators, like Mirai, like everybody that worked on Mirai, would probably say that Spider-Man should have won certain awards, at least for the leaps in like creative and technical things they did with that film.
On top of the fact that, like, Studio Chizu, the production company, they're a small company. I think they have like 30 artists.
Yeah.
Or so. It's a very, very small production for feature animation. Like, absolutely crazy how small the production on that is. Like, on all of the Hosoda productions.
I think one of these days we're going to have an anime win, because I'm looking just at the list of, what's been nominated.
Yeah.
For the longest time, it was basically just Pixar winning everything, with, certain exceptions like Wallace and Gromit, because, I mean, claymation, come on, you're going to have to win. And then Rango, which I still haven't seen.
Rango's really good. I enjoy that.
Big Hero 6, that's Disney proper though, isn't it?
Yeah, that's Disney proper, but that was also a big push from John Lasseter. And
to actually make real good films again.
And well, the least said about John Lasseter, the better.
Oh, correction, Spirited Away one. It was the second one. So so
Spirited Away,
which makes perfect
Spirited
sense.
Away one. That was a big thing with Spirited Away. When that won, and I still consider Spirited Away very overrated out of the Miyazaki films.
And looking at the very first one here, Shrek won over Monsters Inc.
Yeah,
I bet they were getting that one now.
Yeah,
but yeah, so it was, to get into the plot, right? It's almost got hints of, actually, it's got hints of Spirited Away.
Kind of.
Like the whole
your whisk.
In a world of,
you go from modern day to whisking off to this crazy realm of animal people,
which actually had the animal people realm didn't really look a lot like what you'd figure, like if it was supposed to be like ancient Japan. It had a very like South American Brazilian look.
I could see that, yeah.
Like just how how things were all everything was built onto the side of mountains, and the way you had, it just looked like when you see like the painted slums in a lot of South American countries.
Right.
All the stone and cement, and then different walkways with tons of stairways and sort of like a hodgepodge where everybody's clustered together. It had a very South American look to me. And what I wanted to see more of is in the plot when they're told, here's your letters of introduction, meet all the great masters of all the different, I guess it's supposed to be like martial arts or different subjects. When they go to visit them, like all the different areas they went to, I'm like, I want to see more of that area. I want to see more of that area. I want to see more of that whirlpool, like that goes into like nothingness. I want to see the giant tree, or the all the statues, and like it almost feels like they put so much effort into a lot of these scenes, and I'm like, but I want to see more.
And I do love the hinting and the illusions that happen with Hikaru Shibaru, the other human that's in this animal world. Though we don't technically know that he's human until later, but
I thought he
it's
was a
kind of
girl
obvious.
at first. It's like I thought that's what it was going to be, and then it's like nope. I'll say this too, like the beginning, how with the plot, how it goes is, kid's mother dies, boy runs away from, he says he doesn't know them, but there's family guardians. I'm assuming it's like cousins or something.
His mother's like sister or something.
Yeah,
they never knew.
Yeah, so he runs away, gets discovered by beasts, and somehow stumbles his way through nooks and crannies and ends up in that the beast world, or the non-human realm. But how this all sort of starts is there is a little like sprite fluffy beast creature that he meets and befriends by giving it bread, and it's never explicitly shown, but it's sort of hinted that it's like that might be his mother's spirit.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that.
Every time,
honestly,
every time he sees his mother giving him advice or hallucinating, it's right next to it.
God dang it! I didn't even connect that.
Every single time the camera pans and it's right there, right next to it.
Huh?
It never grows. Nobody else notices it ever.
Yeah, no one does. Right.
It doesn't look like any. It doesn't look like any of the other beasts. There's no other creature that like it. It doesn't.
It's like
age.
it's very Ghibli-esque in its design.
But it also isn't an imaginary creature because it does ruffle his hair.
Right.
Like it's not like only he has to, like I could see if only he could see it, but the fact that he can interact with it and it was eating food and everything, but nobody else seems to notice it's there. So it's like a guardian spirit or his mother reincarnated in this or something or other. At least that's how I looked at it, and I was like, I've like they don't really. It's the only thing they don't explain, except I'm like, well, every time his mother gives him advice, or he thinks of his mother or sees his mother, the very next scene is that the creature's right there.
Huh? Yeah, it probably is intentional, given the fact that that's a Hosoda kind of thing. Like I would expect that from him.
I imagine if I looked up on some anime forums, like I don't think I'm crazy.
No, I don't think you're crazy.
I'm thinking that if that's not the reason it's there, or if that's not the true meaning it's there, I'm almost thinking it's like they put that there so you can interpret it however you want.
Right. And you have this. I actually like the idea that it's like the other son of the rival to Kumatetsu, the beast father figure, the other son, he's just like disrespecting him, and then then when he finally fights back, it's just like, oh, okay.
Wait, strong. You're strong, and strong people are cool. So now I like you.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to come to my house? I got candy.
Yeah. It's just like, okay, that's pretty quick.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's like what I also like too is he's the younger brother of the dun 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 other human that was adopted by the one I'm drawing a blank on his name. Too many of the names are too hard for me to pronounce. It's revealed eventually that he's human, but obviously the family initially knows all along, and the younger brother doesn't think any less of him. He's like, you're my brother. It's like all these things are happening or whatever. You're not, doesn't matter. You're my brother.
Right.
So I'm glad they went that route.
The name of the other successor is Yozen.
That's right. The one that looked a little more like a. It was
like a
boar
hog.
lion.
Yeah, boar lion hog thing. And I also just love the notion that it's just like it's absolutely hilarious that Kumatetsu and Yozen are trying to fight who's going to be the lord of the world of this world. And the actual lord of the world is this rabbit who can't decide what god he wants to reincarnate into.
Well, and see, I thought the rabbit was going to be the little tiny beast thing that is always with him. That it was going to be like watching him. And then when it was revealed that it wasn't, I'm like, well, it's got to be the mom. And I was like, what? How is the rabbit? Well, and it's because the rabbit's super fast. He just disappears, reappears, can do whatever he wants. I wanted to see them all use more of the powers. Like some of those other masters had like telekinesis. One seems to be able to eat anything. It's like, oh, I'm going to catch all these fish and eat this fish. I'm going to eat your clothes.
The sea lion.
Yeah. Who looked like a character right out of like I don't know, like a Doraemon cartoon or something.
Probably intended to be that way.
Yeah, everybody else looked like one style, and that one character looks like something out of a like 70s or early 80s kids anime.
And that's the thing, like Hosoda is always open to having these different interpretations and having this openness to other people and working with other people, that I think Miyazaki is not someone that does that. Miyazaki is a perfectionist.
Who has said on multiple occasions that video games aren't art.
Yeah, and who is a super perfectionist who can't seem to really write a good ending because he is terrible at writing endings.
Yeah, out of all that, I went through a marathon of watching at my local theater when they did like the Studio Ghibli Fest. It was 10 movies. I think it was 10 movies for $30.
Yep.
So I went and saw that. I saw a whole bunch of them, and the only two that I was satisfied with the ending, but I still wanted to see sequels or more, was Kiki's Delivery Service. Mm-hmm. Totoro has a good ending, except that I don't like it because I know what the whole movie's about.
You know exactly what that movie's about instantly.
Yeah. So I can't really say that, but I would say where I'm satisfied with the ending is Kiki's Delivery Service, and honestly, Porco Rosso, maybe.
I'm a big fan of Castle in the Sky, and I'm an uber fan of Nausicaa. Like.
Well, they're all good, but I always, I mean, not that they're a letdown, but like they could have had better endings or could have done more or something.
I think the most concise ending he's ever had is Castle in the Sky.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, like that actually feels somewhat satisfying compared to everything else he's done.
Kiki and Porco are probably my favorite films, though, overall.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, hands down, Porco Rosso is freaking phenomenal.
I mean, it's an Italian pig that flies a plane. I mean, of course.
Yeah. And it also just has super big war allegories.
Yeah. And I would say Kiki's is almost the most, I don't know, it's the most Disney of like old school Disney.
Yeah.
Like you could have taken that movie and just plopped it in,
which is ironic, like because most people that know that film know it because of the Disney production when they dubbed it, because Disney promoted the hell out of that.
Well, because it probably looked at his entire library and like, that's the closest to our stuff anyway. Yeah,
it was like. Literally, if you grew up in the 90s and had VHS copies of Disney films, almost every single Disney VHS had a trailer for that film.
Because how many, like his movies are like, usually it's like Disney, but then there'll be blood. And you're like, oh, well, now it's not Disney anymore.
Yeah. We'll shove it off to Miramax or something.
Yeah. It's like, or it's like, we can do the other ones. It's like, no, we can't, because while Disney might deal with death, it'll be for a few minutes at the beginning of the movie, and that's it. And
the only reason why Disney dubbed the rest of Miyazaki's films besides Kiki was because John Lasseter became head of Disney animation.
Yeah. Well, something tells me they're like, okay, so you got Kiki. So what's your next project? Well, we're going to release it wide release. And they're like, Grave of the Fireflies. And they're like, oh, no. we're not going to do that.
I mean, heck, only yesterday, which was the last Studio Ghibli film that no one in North America ever saw, finally got North American got to be seen in North America like a couple of years ago and got dubbed thanks to G-Kids. Because it involved like actual the actual story is about a female growing up, and it actually involves like menstruation and stuff. Like there's moments where it's Disney's not touching that.
Disney's like, no, like we don't allow violent blood, let alone natural blood.
Yeah.
Well, I swear what probably scared them off was when they saw Grave of the Fireflies, and they're like, well, this isn't they were trying to build up Ghibli when they were marketing it as like it's like Japanese Disney, and it's like no, one or two of the films are. If by Japanese Disney you mean super high quality animation, then yes. But if you mean by like just pure in tone, it's like you have one movie, Kiki's Delivery Service, and then you have a movie that is based on a true story about living and or dying during the horrors of World War II.
Yeah, it's definitely something to say about it. And I can
see, like, I'm only bringing that up because seeing, looking through the works, like with the Boy and the Beast, and other projects that like all these
Hosoda has done,
Hosoda and other people too, like
Shinkai as well.
Yeah, the reason,
another one.
Yeah,
that's held
like,
up.
The whole, like, why they were trying to market this is like, oh, it's the the next coming of Miyazaki. It's because Miyazaki was one of the people that showed that you could do these really, vastly different stories every single movie. You didn't have to do like the Disney formula. You didn't have to go and seek that. It showed that like you could make anime as true cinema and not just a popcorn flick. This movie sort of balances a bit of both. It has the cinema aspect to it, and then it has the very, like, the story itself boiled down to its core could be a Disney movie.
Yeah, because
it's expanded upon.
And I mean that's intentional because I have the Funimation Hosoda collection set for this film. It comes with like a little booklet with like interviews and stuff. And one of the big things Hosoda said is, I wanted to make a summer blockbuster for that. I like a reminiscent of stuff I grew up on back when I was a young kid, that I would go see films like this when I was younger. And you can definitely tell. Like, you can tell there's a love to that.
Yeah, and as far as animation is concerned, it's high budget, but not like, it didn't scream to me that they spent a crazy amount of money on it. It seems like they were just really good with what they had. I would say the characters are almost minimalistic compared to the backgrounds.
Yeah, the background, he's worked with the same like head background artists since Wolf Children, and Wolf Children's backgrounds, like, you can screenshot the backgrounds of Wolf Children and it would look like a friggin' painting that you hang up on your wall.
So just cross your fingers and hope there's like a 4K disc that comes out so you can make like background wallpapers for your computer.
Yeah, kinda. It's that beautiful. Like, I wish there was a 4K version of this, but not happening.
And looking it up, it had a 55 Japan. Million US. If you convert the yen, it was $55 million budget to create the movie, which is pretty darn high.
And it made it made like just under 55 million worldwide, and then 5.8 billion in Japan. In yen. So it's like,
it made its budget back in Japan alone and then the rest of the world made another 50 million. It doubled its budget.
Yeah, it doubled its budget
and that's before streaming or home video or anything.
And even then, I'm happy that Funimation currently still has the rights, but I have a feeling that once the rest of Hosoda's films lapse rights from Funimation, G-Kids is just going to snipe those.
Which it makes sense, because like for a long time I always thought like some of these like auteur creators, why, especially something like an Akira or something from Studio Ghibli, why hadn't Criterion picked it up? And G-Kids is basically Criterion for animation. So there's no 100%. Need for Criterion to do it now. And G-Kids is also more receptive to doing 4K copies. So
4K copies, as well as the fact that G-Kids has a better in when it comes to getting Best Animated Films nominations at the Academy Awards. Like almost every single year since their inception, G-Kids has had one of their animated distributed films on the list for Best Animated.
Because I think they're based out of New York. So for a company that's only 12 years old, they've done a lot to like, and they really, even their logo, the branding, the way they do their box art, it's almost like they're trying to copy the Criterion Collection just to get that look and feel.
On top of the fact that it champions a lot of international animation cinema.
Yeah.
Like that's their end all be all, is they're a huge champion of that.
Yeah, I remember reading an article somebody put out saying that out of all of the boutique or even independent home video distributors, they have the highest average Rotten Tomatoes rating if you average all of their films.
Well, they also have all the Ghibli films now, so that kind of helps.
But yeah, they don't have a single movie that they've released that has less than 75% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
So they pick and choose, and this isn't a case of necessarily picking and choosing something that's already successful. They sign a lot of these deals before the movie's even done.
Heck, they literally, G-Kids literally everywhere except the US, you can watch all of the Ghibli films on Netflix because they had already signed a deal with HBO Max, so all the Ghibli films are on HBO Max.
That's right. All Ghibli stuff showed up on Netflix recently here.
Yeah, everywhere else besides the US, because they had already made a deal with HBO Max to get the Ghibli films.
Which, I mean, at least you're not going to have to worry about problems in quality difference, because both Max and Netflix, I don't think you're going to be getting a crappier or inferior copy.
Of course.
The only thing you might not get is I don't know if HBO Max puts special features with their things.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so then you'll probably get that on Netflix, if anything. But getting back to this movie, like with this movie, I was not expecting the turn at about the halfway point where he just starts going back to the human world to like study
after the time skip.
Yeah, after the time skip of, I had to rewind it twice. Like they ask him what his age is, and he says like he did the motions with his hands, and he does 12, but he's 18 or 17 if you read the synopsis. He's
17 because he flashes the 10 and then does the 17, the 7.
See, I only saw
he goes 10 and 7.
Oh, see, I only saw 10 and then one hand go up with 2. I didn't see the other hand. So, okay, maybe I was just blind because I was like, he looks older than 12. But he spends basically half his life there.
Yeah.
And when he goes back to the regular world, sees his dad who looks his same age for whatever reason. They made his dad look like he's only like 25 or something.
Those Japanese genes.
Yeah, and he's taller than his dad now. But what I love is like the dad's like, "Oh my god, I found you." He's like, "You like." Something, it just seemed kind of off. It's like, wait, your dad was searching for, I thought your dad was dead or a deadbeat. Like, so your mom died and
his mom divorced him.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, his mom divorced him before the events of the film.
But like, you're telling me they couldn't locate the father before? Like
the father just refused. Actually,
is that what it was?
That's what he said. He says, like, I should have been the one, but I didn't have the.
Okay, because I was watching
some kind of excuse.
Okay, because like I was watching, I'm like, it made it sound like I thought, was he working abroad or something? Like it didn't make a lot of sense. And then sure, they sort of reconcile it, but it was interesting how like once he perfected his body, his thirst for knowledge to perfect his mind led him back to the human world so he could learn.
Right.
Which was cool. And then it gets a little hinky with the whole evil vortex of black hole of negative energy.
The hole in their heart.
Yeah, which looks like a black hole
in their soul. The hole in their soul, because literally when Kumatetsu reincarnates into the sword, it fills the hole in his soul. And
true, and it showed that he wasn't going to be even if it didn't happen, he wasn't going to be consumed by the evil of the whole, because he was connected with his friends and family.
Right. It's just like that. It's a great, like, subtle metaphor. And by subtle, I mean you kind of get hit over the head with it because it's a kids movie. And it's supposed to be for younger kids.
And in watching it, I'm like, so wait, does he become the king of the Beastland? Because technically, his master became it, and when he got that power, he reincarnated as a god, which I guess the god of swords or something, and then it goes into him. Yeah. So does he get to be the leader because now the god lives inside of him?
It's kind of very vague because
it sort of shows.
But that also his girlfriend comes to the beast world, so maybe I don't know.
And she's completely fine. Well, it's at the end he leaves and it says he never ever returned again. To the beast world. But so it would either be, well, it looks like the rabbit guy never retired, or he was going to wait longer. And
yeah, I guess so.
And because by default the other guy would maybe get it, but it doesn't seem like that. What it showed was like all these people that had trained under him now were taking over, and maybe the rabbit wasn't. And he even says he goes, I guess I should have reincarnated a long time ago. He goes, but I guess I'm not going to now. So I guess the idea is he's just going to live longer as the leader.
Yeah.
But it was kind of cool how they blended it, and the animation really took an uptick as far as the quality at the end. Like they were saving their budget for the whale fight.
Oh yeah. And I do like Hosoda's incorporation of CG, and that literally goes all the way back to when Hosoda did the Digimon film.
I was going to say
the part of the Digimon film that everyone remembers.
See, you're like, I don't know if you've seen one of his movies before. I've seen exactly one, and it was the Digimon film in theaters.
Yeah, yeah.
So when did that come out? I would have been like 13 or 12.
Yeah, he was the director of the first two segments of the Digimon, of what we know as the Digimon film. Yeah,
because they spliced it out of two other things or something, right?
They spliced it out of 3 features. So it's the first
the
two
part.
Yeah, the good looking part. The part that wasn't part of season 2 of Digimon.
The part where I watched it and went, why can't the Pokemon movie look this good?
Yeah,
But yeah, it's overall a good movie. I can see why they were really praising it, but I can also see why it didn't necessarily win. And the part I can see is it is a little long.
It is, but I will say that all of Hosoda's films are about this length.
Well, and it's not necessarily like a bad thing, but you know how film critics can be. Like they'll be like, "Oh, well, tighten it up here, do this." They'll nitpick, to all hell. I would say you probably could have cut not a lot. I mean, it could have been maybe 10 minutes shorter.
Yeah, you could cut it under 2 hours.
Yeah, just a little bit, not a whole ton. Just trimmed it up a bit, and I think it would have held over better. And I think it could have used a slightly better marketing campaign here initially.
This is why Hosoda jumped ship from Funimation to G Kids.
Yeah, because they tried to market it. I remember as like, if I remember correctly, it was like they tried to market it as like a purely action show or action movie.
Heck, the same thing happened with Shinkai. Shinkai made the deal with Funimation for Your Name, and Your Name didn't even get nominated at all. And like Funimation really pushed for Your Name.
It's because Funimation knows how to market like jump shows.
Yeah,
and tie-ins. Like they know how to market to an audience they already have.
Yeah, which is basically why Funimation Films as a branch of Funimation is kind of not dissolved, but kind of just been stagnant.
And if you look, they tie all of their roadshow stuff is no longer just under them. It's under Fathom Events. So they have another company handle their roadshow stuff in the last 4 or 5 years. Probably from around the time.
G Kids does the same thing though.
Yeah, but there was a bit where they were trying to like have their own full distribution wing where they were going to handle everything, and it's like, no, don't do that. No. Tie it in with somebody who knows how to do these one-off events and get them to work it.
I remember seeing Your Name in theaters, and technically I was supposed to have seen the dub of it, and we ended up seeing the sub.
Oh, well, that's like, okay. When I went to see My Hero, the second movie this past year, I go to see it, and it says it's the sub version because I'm like, I don't want to go to another town. I was going to have to go to Mike Dodd's city, which is like 40 minutes away, to see the dub version, and the weather was crappy out. And I'm like, okay, well, they got the sub version here. I sit down, and the dub version starts playing, and I'm like, I'm perfectly happy.
That's what has happened with Funimation just sends the wrong print to the wrong theater.
I mean, it was I was going to be okay with either or, but the lady that was behind me with her kid was so happy when she realized that it was the dub, because her kid was like 6, and how fast they talk, and like he was going to be okay with it, but I could see he was already relegated to being like upset that he wasn't going to be able to understand what was happening. And then it was all fine. And like 3 people got up and left to complain. And I'm like, weebs.
well, at the same time, it's just like, there was like probably 15 or 16 of us in the Your Name screening. And we did go to the desk at the end of the movie and said that. And it was just like, we just got the wrong print from them. And I was like, all right, it's fine. We're not that mad about it.
Oh yeah. Well, this was like when I saw the first
specifically because Your Name took 9 months to get to the US.
Yeah.
And I was so lucky that I did not get that movie spoiled for me. Like, genuinely surprised that no one spoiled that movie for me. Because what a shock!
That's the thing. And with the My Hero stuff, I was like, I knew I had to go the first day it was available, because any of my friends that would see it, it would just start popping up on things. I'm like, I gotta go see it. And I like it. I think the first one had a bit of was it a couple months between when it was out there and it came out here or something?
With the My Hero stuff,
the second one was really close.
Funimation has a really good deal with Studio Bones. They get a lot of the pre-productions content from Studio Bones, so they can dub it while it's still in production.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I might be wrong, but wasn't My Hero the second one here that came out, was it December? Wasn't it only like a week or 2 off?
Yes, it was only a week or 2 off, because they were dubbing it dubbing it in while the movie was still in production as well.
I was going to say, because I'm pretty sure it was still in Japanese theaters when we got it.
Yes, because in Japan, it came out the weekend of my birthday, if I remember correctly, in December, and then we got it in January.
And I was super duper surprised by it. Oh yeah, that's right. It was the first one was that December? One of them was like right around Christmas, and I was like, that was pretty fast. But
the second movie was December. I distinctly remember that.
Yeah,
because they were still basically what happened with the second My Hero movie is they were doing the anime adaptation simultaneously with the movie.
Oh, that's
so
right.
Basically, the first half of this last season of My Hero was also in production at the same time as the movie.
That's right, and I think it was, I can't remember because I didn't see it, but wasn't the newest Dragon Ball movie a simul release?
Yes, like it was pure simul. And the Broly film was released internationally and domestically at the same time.
At the same time.
Yes,
and they said that was the first time that's ever happened for.
And it's also still technically the highest grossing anime film in the U.S. if I remember correctly.
I mean, it was so fresh, right? That would have been, and there's no way of like spoiling it because if it comes out the same day.
Yeah, especially something like you have made a character that was non-canon canon officially. That's huge. That was huge.
So I mean, I'm hoping that more titles like that G Kids or other people are going to take note. The window for distribution has shrunken tremendously. I was going to say, I think like a lot of the studios in Japan now, especially when they're realizing that they're all hit hard with the pandemic and pushing things back and around, it might be time to start thinking that, much more globally about their releases and maybe even have, a dub team in mind or be working with them, from the start, because they can see how well it's worked for Funimation.
Right. And I think basically the major players right now in terms of film distribution here in the US for Japanese releases, you've got 11 Arts, which is just theatrical stuff. Like 11 Arts does just theatrical stuff. And then they have sometimes they work with other companies to do home video releases. And then you have Funimation and G Kids. That's it. That's all we got right now. And then sometimes you get some of the big boys dipping their toe here and there,
Sony
depending.
Now and then when they think they want to do it again.
Sony or Warner has a couple, because like Warner Japan has a couple of rights to certain things. Like the Death Note stuff is Warner Japan. So they have rights to that. And I think I guess because Funimation has the other Kenshin films, they're going to be distributing because they adapted the final Rurouni Kenshin arc into a film, and that was supposed to come out this year. Like this fall. I don't know if it's still going to be coming out this fall because of the pandemic and everything, but that's huge. And it's like all the cast is back. I'm super excited for it. And now that we're wrapping up, like with Boy and the Beast, I love this film. I actually kind of appreciate it a lot more coming back to it.
I can see it being something that if you watch it, when you're younger, watch it again when you're a little older, and you might get a second meaning out of it.
Oh yeah, 100%. And And speaking of the Kenshin films, that is what we're going to be taking a look at in September. We're going to finish out the Kenshin live action trilogy, which is not going to be a trilogy in like another year or so, because the next film is coming out very soon, at some point in the next 6 months or so. We're going to get that, but we're going to cover the back half, the other two films that we did not cover earlier on this year of the Kenshin live action films, and that is going to be a double feature back to back for the month of September. Other than that, we of course have our October and November episodes planned. We are going to officially take December off, but we will have a short little like preview of the next year or next 6 months or so of the podcast in December. But yeah, we are going to be doing that. Alex, what are you guys doing over at Twig?
We have our weekly shows on Mondays. What have we got coming up in the next little bit? We had launched our B-movie series on our podcast, Loose Cannon. We've got a bunch of weird horror stuff coming up as we're starting to ramp up getting production ready for October. I know Mike's all gung-ho. That's his favorite month. So he's like, we're going to do a whole month of horror-based things, and we're going to pre-record a lot of it to get it up and running, because I'm going to take a couple weeks off end of September, maybe early October, so we have a whole bunch of stuff in the bank. It's sort of a lull right now when it comes to gaming and all that. We're all sort of just waiting on what's going to happen with the new gaming hardware, and then I imagine our content is just going to start exploding. But right now, it's just sort of our regular weekly show, some reviews here and there, and getting ready to launch a new version of the website in the next month or so.
All right, good stuff. And that is going to be it. Thank you guys for listening. We're not watching because we're not streaming this episode because of just logistics and everything. But you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at KenReels. Again, Alex can be found. What's your Twitter handle again?
It's at Deathface Twig, but you can also just find me. I'm generally the one monitoring the at ThisWeekInGeek handle. You can find us ThisWeekInGeek.net, all social platforms. You'll know it's us because it has the Superman symbol. We are going to be having an updated version of that coming out soon, but just give me a shout. And if you really, really, really want to find me and you can't find me, you can probably just go through Ken here.
Yep. ThisAnimePodcast.com is our website. You can get the episodes directly through the RSS feed. We're on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, all that jazz. Well, not Google Play anymore and not iTunes anymore, because now they're Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts officially, because Google Play is dead. But yeah, and then we're also available on pretty much every place that will have us. We're on TuneIn, so you can listen to us via Alexas, if that's a thing. Apparently it is a thing, because I've seen that in our statistics.
Oh, it's randomly popped up for ours too, and I'm like, what? Okay.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm waiting for the day that I get a response saying it was played through a LG smart fridge or something. Well, think about it. Wouldn't it be great to have a podcast on playing through your fridge while you're cooking food or something?
Yeah, exactly. And then also as soon as Amazon officially launches their full podcast suite to other people, that we will be available via that. So you can listen to us via the Audible app or the Amazon Music app. Apparently, this was something that Amazon kind of like has soft launched at this point, but it's not fully out there. Don't worry, we will eventually be on there whenever they open it up to everyone else.
If it's a major platform, you're probably on it.
Yeah, pretty much. So that is going to be it. Thank you guys. And we will see you next month for the Kenshin live action trilogy's finale. So, bye. Thank you for listening to This Anime.
Okay, master. Let's kill the whole.
No. If anything, just like us on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/thisanimepodcast. Follow the podcast on Twitter @thisanimepod, or comment on our episode posts over at thisanimepodcast.com. That's This Anime Podcast on Facebook, @thisanimepod on Twitter, and thisanimepodcast.com.
Yes. Oh my god.
This Anime is available on Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, and Google Play/podcasts. If you're listening on one of those platforms, please consider subscribing, rating, and or reviewing on those platforms to help us grow. Every time you do so, it helps This Anime take over